Okay, this is a reaction video. This is another reaction video from Lost in the Pond. 6 ways British and American airports are very different. Now, I really haven't given this a whole lot of thought. I've only been in one foreign airport, and that was in Germany. And that was during the World Cup, and it was one of the first places I've ever been to, airports I've been to, where you literally got screened 3 different times. You got screened when you went through normal security, then you got literally frisked by a guy with an AK-47, and you even got frisked before you even made it to the gate. And I wonder if that was just during the World Cup or not. But let's see what this is like. 6 ways British and American airports are very different.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to airports. As a frequently flying YouTube sensation, I have been to my fair share of countries, including America, Britain, France. That's it. And during one of those recent holidays/vacations, I caught myself musing at some of the differences between British and American airports.
And I've been to quite a few airports in my time in the United States, just not too many, very many foreign airports. I guess I was at the Bermuda airport too back in the day, but I don't really remember a whole lot about it because I lived in Bermuda when I was age 2 to 6, and I just don't have a whole lot of memory of the Bermuda airport.
And today I'm going to answer which country has the biggest airports, the busiest airports, and the worst security, as well as plenty of other high-flying differences. That pun was really shoehorned. So sit back and buckle up as we take a long-haul flight from one side of the pond to the other, and I promise we won't get lost in it. Over the years, Lost in the Pond researchers found that 50% of all British-American differences come down to size. And it turns out that airports are no different. It'll probably come as no surprise to Brits and Anglophiles alike that the largest airport in Britain is London Heathrow.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Covering an area of
I think the largest airport in the United States is Hartfield in Atlanta, but I've been to big airports like I think Seattle has a pretty big airport. So does LAX is a big airport. George Bush Airport in Houston is pretty big too.
Of land equal to about 4.74 square miles, London Heathrow is absolutely massive by British standards. You see, the United States boasts several airports that absolutely dwarf Heathrow, with 5 of the top 7 largest airports on Earth located right here in the brave new world. Nobody calls it that anymore. And the largest of these, and second largest in the entire world, is not LAX or JFK or O'Hare. It is Denver International Airport.
And I've been to Denver International Airport, and that is a big airport.
And I've been to Denver International Airport, and I can confirm it's massive. Between the interterminal trains, golf carts, and wheelbarrows, it took me about 8 hours just to find my luggage.
But I was wrong with that. I thought Hartfield would be the biggest airport, but I have been to Denver. Denver's airport is massive, and I recommend anybody in the United States get the TSA pre-check, because my friend who didn't have it when we came back from Denver to Columbus, I got through in about 6-7 minutes to the gate. He took him about an hour.
But all of this talk of excessive land use got me thinking, does the size of an airport inform how busy it is? Well, in Heathrow's case, yes. It probably comes as no surprise to anybody that as the largest airport in the UK, Heathrow is easily the busiest. With pre-pandemic numbers of roughly 80 million annual passengers, Heathrow services almost twice the amount of the second busiest airport in the UK, that's London Gatwick. But when looking at 2019's pre-pandemic rankings, the top 10 is absolutely dominated by airports in the United States. Back then, 4 American airports featured in the world's top 10, while in 2021, amid the ongoing effects of the COVID.
I've been to LAX too, and that is an absolute nightmare coming in and going out. LAX is just massive.
COVID-19 pandemic.
It's massively huge and very, very busy. It's not the easiest airport to get in and out of. Fortunately, I did not have to do any of the driving. I had my crazy cousin do it, and he seemed to navigate it pretty well. But yeah, LAX is a pain in the wazoo.
Pandemic, the United States accounted for a whopping 80%.
See, I've been to Denver. I've been to Dallas, which is a pretty big airport. I've been to O'Hare. I've been to LAX. I've been to Charlotte, and I've been to Orlando. I'm actually surprised. I've been to Harry Reid. I'm actually surprised that Atlanta's, well, I don't know if Atlanta's number one, because I thought Atlanta would be on this as well, but it's not. Hartfield is a massive airport in the United States.
Of the top 10. And when we think of the busiest airports in the United States, those in Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago probably spring to mind soonest. But in pre-pandemic times, having handled more than 110 million annual passengers, Atlanta International Airport,
Yep, that's what I thought, Atlanta,
was not only the busiest in the United States, but the entire world. And its large numbers owe much to the fact that Atlanta is a giant hub for Delta Airlines, which
that's why if you fly Delta, chances are you're either, especially in the East Coast, you're probably going through Atlanta. They have hubs in Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, Cincinnati's airport, which by the way is in Kentucky, and Atlanta. Those are the ones that I know of.
just happens to be headquartered in the city. Oh, and speaking of Delta variants, that brings us on to this. The spectre of COVID-19 hangs over us like a perpetual nightmare, or flying with EasyJet. And over the last couple of years, countries around the world have had to adapt to government mandates around flying. In Britain and America, much like everywhere else, this is ever evolving. Currently, as my wife and I found on a recent visit to Paris, a trip that I haven't mentioned at every opportunity, travellers aged 2 and older, regardless of nationality or citizenship status, are required to show proof of a negative COVID test taken 24 hours before the flight back to the United States. And I can honestly say, this is the first time a Frenchman has ever stuck a stick up my nose, or anywhere else for that matter. Currently, entering the UK is a little bit different. Gone are the days of those 14-day quarantine periods. According to the UK government's website, once entering the United Kingdom, be it England, Scotland...
Complete a passenger locator form, show proof of vaccination status, take any pre-departure or post-arrival test. Yeah, I mean, COVID-19 has changed everything. I was supposed to go to fly into Paris May of 2020, but that got canceled because of COVID. And one of the things that up until recently in the United States, you had to wear a mask in the airport and on the airplane. Now, this last trip that I just took on an airplane to Arizona, I did not have to do that. Now, you can if you like, but you don't have to do it anymore. And I say thank God to that.
Wales or Northern Ireland,
I'm also triple vaxxed, by the way.
Do not need to complete a passenger locator form, show proof of vaccination status, or take any
so you don't need to. I didn't read that correctly. So you do not need to do that. That's good.
Departure or post-arrival tests. And then something about how the UK government has recommended taking well-known COVID precautions. Of course, all of this COVID malarkey is the last thing you want to think about, especially when you have to navigate this.
Yeah, security was very lax. If you go to the United States in 2001, everybody knows about 9/11. If September 10th, 2001, if my brother was flying in, or my sister, and I wanted to meet them actually at the gate where the plane arrives, I could have gone through security and not a problem. Now, unless I have a ticket, I can't do that. I've got to let them come out past security. But yeah, security has definitely changed since 2001 in the United States.
People like to say that airport security is just all theatre, but as somebody who once worked in the theatre, I can tell you that airport security has painfully little understanding of improv and Stanislavski. And from one side of the pond to the other, there are some subtle and not so subtle differences in how security operations operate. For instance, in the United States, passengers are still required to remove their shoes before going through that security.
Now, if you're like me, who's TSA pre-screened, you do not have to do that. TSA pre-screen, all you have to do is on your ticket, it'll say TSA pre-screen. You give it to them, they'll look at your identification, and you'll basically put the stuff on the conveyor belt like normal. The difference is you don't have to take off your shoes, your belt, or anything like that. You just walk around through, and if they need to wand you, they'll wand you, and that's pretty much it. It certainly saves a lot of time.
Detector thing. This is normally not the case when flying from or within the United Kingdom, though they might ask you to remove footwear if it causes the security detector thing to go off. And then there's liquids. right? You're allowed to take liquids as part of your hand luggage, so long as it doesn't exceed a certain amount. And that amount is exactly the same whether you're flying from Britain or America. And I know what you're thinking, ooh, Lawrence, this video is about differences, not similarities. Well, as is often the case when it comes to Britain and America, the difference lies in the unit of measurement. In Britain, we say no more than 100 millilitres, and this equates to the US mandate of 3.4 ounces. And then there's pre-check. Pre-check sounds so quintessentially American it couldn't possibly exist in Britain. But what is pre-check? Pre-check, or TSA pre-check to give it...
Which is what I just mentioned, is basically, well, here, let me give you a little bit more information on it. You pay, I believe it was $85, and you go and you bring your passport and you bring everything, and they ran it through and they give you a number, a pre-check number. That means that you're okay to fly, and it's good for 5 years. And then you can go and renew it if you want.
It its full name is only a feature of the United States.
There's also TSA pre-check clear, which is a little bit more expensive, and I think that's a yearly thing where it's even faster to go through.
Following a background check, fingerprinting, and paying a fee of $85, pre-check passengers get an expedited security process in which, shock horror, they don't have to take off their shoes. Though in my experience, far too many of them do once they get on the plane. And while British Airways...
Yeah, don't do that. Keep your damn shoes on. Don't take your shoes off. Leave them on.
Airways does participate in this program at US airports. Pre-check is not available in Britain. Oh.
So if I ever make it to Britain and I'm going to the airport there, I'm going to take off my shoes.
And speaking of British Airways, that brings us on to this. It goes without saying that British and American airports are populated by notably different airlines. The big one in Britain, and one that you may well use if you're travelling between
British Airways.
Britain and the United States, or vice versa, is British Airways. In the event that you don't use British Airways in that scenario, you'll likely end up on its US equivalent, American Airlines. Since we're strictly talking about airports today, I'm not going to do a deep dive into the differences between a BA flight and an American Airlines flight, but I will do that in a later video, and I've just realised that nobody wants to hear the term deep dive when talking about planes.
That is true.
But some other airlines that you will encounter in Britain are as follows, and note the quality of these may vary. BA City Flyer, Virgin Atlantic, EasyJet, Logan Air, that's the Scottish one, Eastern Airways, and Wizz Air UK. On the US side, there are many.
There's Delta, there's American, there's Alaska, there's Pioneer, there's, oh good God, there used to be one called US Airways, or Continental, but that was bought by US Airways. I don't know if US Airways still exists. There's just so many of them.
In addition to American Airlines, you have United, Southwest, Alaska, JetBlue, Frontier, Delta, Allegiant Air, and Hawaii Airlines, just to name a few.
This may be where the big difference lies in terminology.
We can hardly talk about the differences between British and American airports without discussing terminology. While both countries commonly refer to that big heavy metal thing with wings as a plane, Americans might use the slightly longer term of airplane, whereas in Britain we sometimes use the word aeroplane to describe the action of...
I just call it a plane. But I always remember George Carlin did a stand-up. He said... when they say get on the plane, he said, well, BS to that. Let Evel Knievel get on the plane. I'm going in the plane.
Getting off
I think that made more sense.
the plane, American air staff will sometimes use the word deplane. While in Britain, we might say, I don't know, disembark, exit, sod off.
Well, sawed off, I don't know if we ever said that, but probably everybody would know what you meant if you said, say any of those things which you're talking about, disembark, that sort of thing.
Naturally, the departments overseeing security are different on either side of the pond. In America, this is presided over by the Transportation
TSA.
Security Administration, otherwise known as TSA, while in Britain it's the Department for Transport, otherwise known as uppercase D, lowercase f, uppercase T, which is a bloody mouthful. And you know...
Yeah,
Those horizontal conveyor belts that get you through the airport more quickly. Well, both countries might refer to this as a people mover, but in Britain I've also heard it referred to as a moving walkway, and in America, a moving sidewalk. And when it comes to our suitcases and bags, Brits are more likely to refer to the collective as luggage and sometimes baggage, and Americans more likely baggage but sometimes luggage.
Suitcase.
And that's it. We've
Somebody's called a suitcase too.
reached our final destination. Thankfully, not like in the film.
It's not too different, not too dissimilar. I mean, we might have bigger sizes and maybe busier airports in the United States, but we're a bigger country. That's the reason why. But it's not too dissimilar.
Let me know in the comments below if you've experienced airports in both countries. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond.
Yeah, this is like I said. I thought I was wondering if there's be any more different, a little more different between the British airports and the United States airports. Doesn't seem like there is. It didn't seem too different when I was in Germany because I went through Frankfurt's airport, which as I understand, is the second largest in Europe behind Charles de Gaulle in Paris. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But yeah, please click like, share, and subscribe for Lawrence and Lost in the Pond, and please click like, share, and subscribe for me. I appreciate you watching this video. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.